what I've found over the past 9 years or something is acquiring and getting more or becoming better and all this shit. It doesn't work as far as yoga or Buddhism or meditation goes. Yeah. In a way, relief is like a regression. It's like a stepping back slowly. You have to settle downward, inward first, and then inquire into that individuality. Yeah. That to me is what works. That's why we do these sessions the way they're done, and why I teach asana the way I teach it. Because if this thing isn't settled down a little bit, almost like individuality, when you feel you're in the body gets turned down, like the volume gets turned way down, yeah. Then you can actually look at it. But when the volume's high, it's like in AA when people first go in, they're just like go to a lot of meetings because the mental volume is too high. It's just screaming. So it's like any move they make, it's just going to go off. So it's much better for them to just go to a ton of meetings until that thing gets slapped enough where it quiets down, and then they can actually do something. Yeah. And then in non-duality, they say you are what you're looking for. So you're pretty much just sitting back into yourself in yoga. But the thing about it is, when you sit into that silence, when that silence goes away, your head tries to get more silence. But it's the head that is the obstacle. Yeah. In a way, it's J is the obstacle to the peace of J. This is like the conundrum of addiction. The person is infested with the virus and it talks to them as them. Like this is the whole thing, you see? So if the practices and stuff are used in order to try to make the mental system quiet, it's going to fail because the mental system's not quiet. It's an agitated system. It's anxious, yeah? It's always moving. It doesn't really stop. It might freeze for a minute, but you only get a minute. The best way is to see that you're not that system and then let it go on, yeah? And then that silence is like ever present. Yeah, that space is ever present. So settling downward and inward gives the mind a lot less ammunition to shoot off on, essentially. So it quiets down immediately because the head's not trying to figure out everything, like taking care of the kids when you're teaching, or you know what I mean, doing all the job. It's not, it's right here, and then it has proper relation essentially to the rest of the world as far as a dualistic relationship goes. The negation is really just letting go of a grip. Yeah. Uh, so if you settle down in the body, you become hyper aware, yeah, but there's a sense that you're becoming hyper aware. Let's say that would sit in the noun of me, yeah? It's actually that me, that sense of individuality that you let go of grip on. Because it's the being the one who's aware of everything that's going on. That is really the bondage of self. You're bound to the contents of experience. Yeah. So when you settle downward and inward, you're right. You become aware of a bunch of stuff. Yeah. It's like in AA, they say more will be revealed, which is true. More will constantly be revealed as you go on. Yeah. Then there's a sense that it's being revealed to you. Yeah. So there's a sense of ownership. It's really the personalness of this whole situation, which makes life super uncomfortable. Yeah. It's like money is fine, but your money, it becomes a very weird thing. You don't want people to have that money. You got to watch out how much money that goes on. Yeah. Sickness is not great, but sickness in this body then is real bad. Yeah. It becomes very personal. So there's a lot of weight put on that idea of my or me. Yes. So when you say go beyond, yeah, to me, it's just seeing that attachment and not touching it. Like Gangamera would say, don't touch the mind, yeah, or don't land anywhere in many ways. What you are, as what we are as awareness, is like space that pervades this situation here, yeah. Um, but the head claims whatever it comes in contact with and puts a you there, yeah, a me. Uh, uh, addiction recovery is essentially breaking that addiction to me. That's like the primary addiction, really. The head is constantly saying me and everything's happening to me. Yeah. So what you're saying is great. You practice, but it gets to a point where it becomes a little more self-centered than you had before. Yeah. it's good to see that, because that sense of you being the one who's aware, that's what really gets negated, not suppressed or blown up or like pushed away or hated. You just see it move and you don't grab at it, or you start to let go of your grip on that movement. And you'll notice when you do that, you do settle downward in the body naturally. Yeah, most people live up really high, kind of like we were saying with the question Caitlin asked. Most people live up high in their eyes. Yeah, they actually don't feel the body at all. They're not aware because they're hyper aware of the mental presentation, which is constantly being presented, just over and over. Belief, judgment, bum, bum, bum. It's happening like super fast. Yeah, and then it's presenting you. These are all yours. By the way, those thoughts are all yours. That actually comes after the thought in many sense. So it's softening off on all of that, but the system needs to be turned down first, yeah? And then if the system's getting turned down and it's making you hyper self-centered, the real inquiry is, who is the one who knows that or feels that, yeah? Because there's that sense of me-ness. That's the bondage of self in recovery, yeah? And in spiritual practice, that's really what we inquire into. Yeah, because you're not the body and the mind. And that movement of me is a presentation of the head.
So the idea of I'm always going to practice in order for that to slow down, that in a way is what I'm saying failed. That didn't work for me. It was seeing that when the depression and stuff came up, it was all conditioned. It's all like old shit, essentially, yeah? The head is seeing through an old lens in many ways. Yeah, so my belief in my head would be that everything is my fault. So if anything goes wrong, it's my fault. If there's a decision to be made, I'm bypassing that decision, if at all possible, whether it's even about getting dinner, you know? Because if it's a wrong decision, that's my fault. So it would reify that belief. I'm not that belief. Yeah? Nor am I the one who thinks that they're seeing that belief. So this thing then can go on. But when it presents stuff that's very uncomfortable, yeah, you're not going with it so much. And because you give everything all the meaning that it has, including the responses of the body, those responses are like farts, essentially. It just happens and then it's gone. Yeah? But if anxiety comes up and then I take it to be my anxiety, now I'm in a couple weeks of anxiety. Yeah? But anxiety is like a movement. It's like a thought, sensation, let's say emotion would come together because this is not a separate system. And it's a seeing, inquiring, who is that arising to? Who owns that thing? And where is it from? Yeah. Now this is the part that the asana stuff doesn't touch, that satsang touches, which is why we talk about it now. If you see, I know why the system sees everything from this being its fault. Yeah. I know why that happens. Because of stuff that happened a long time ago. Yeah. That installed a system of viewership that I was less than and everything's my fault. The head will still go that way in some situations, yeah? But I'm not going that way. Because when that comes up in the mental, let's say, as a presentation or an appearance, yeah, I know that it ain't me. It's old conditioned things of the individuality, yeah? Individuality rises within absolute, so there is an individual me, but if I go with that, it's going to be shit, essentially, yeah? So that's what I'm saying when it comes to negation. But I would not expect for a lot of those things to change by constantly practicing and trying to stop them. Because if you try to stop them, it's putting you there in the seat of ownership, and they're not going to stop because there is no doer. It's all conditioned, yeah? This whole thing is conditioned. Yeah, so when I bike and somebody cuts me off and I'm like, fuck, it's like that's quick conditioned. That happens and then my head comes online and go, oh, yeah, right. So the comfort, let's say, or the relief comes from trying to stop that thing and starting to lose faith in the reaction of it. That to me is where the peace lies, because this thing is going to react in a conditioned response because it feels like there's a doer, and in an individual sense, it feels like I'm doing that, but I'm not doing that. It's conditioned. Yeah. The feeling of being the doer of that response, of the anxiety, is part of the individuality. And any spiritual practice would say the doership essentially dissolves into source or dissolves into space when it's inquired into. Yeah? Because one of the biggest misunderstandings is that this thing is going to stop. That when the kids yell at Caitlin, she's not going to get annoyed. Yeah? She will always get annoyed because it's a conditioned response. And if you have 30 kids yelling at you, I'd say the Buddha would probably get annoyed. Yeah? So it's like the Dalai Lama gets angry. It's just he knows he's not angry, so it doesn't even get a breath, really. It's like a quick hit, the system, yeah? And then once the faith is removed, it's like in recovery, that faith in recovery is put into a higher power, but that's a different system. But as when the faith is removed from the ownership of everything that's going on here, that's, to me, that's when the relief happens. And then this does actually change. It gets a lot quieter because we're giving it all the fuel that it has from before it, from what's aware of this system. Yeah? But the idea that it's going to stop through constant practice would be part of the addiction to spiritual practice. That would be people trying to make the body into a non-body, or the thought system still permanently. The only way that happens is if you die. So that's not going to happen for people, yeah? And it's a huge misunderstanding. You're not the thought system. That's the point here. So when it goes, you don't go. When the system gets anxious about something, if you see through inquiry, you can see why. It becomes super obvious to the point where now it's just like things get really funny. Shit that used to be catastrophic now is funny because it just never gives up. It's just constantly like, this is your fault again. And it's so fucking off. Yeah. It's just way off for the most part. Yeah. Yeah. I hope that helps because the feeling or the sense that this is going to improve into some ethereal thing. This is a body, yeah? It pees and it farts and it needs food and this is not going to become like a purified not body. It's going to get anxious, it's probably going to get sad or happy and all this different movements, yeah? That's duality. It's going to be happy, it's going to be sad, it's going to be up. This is a dualistic subjective experience, but you are not of that experience. So it's inquiring who does that experience arise to inside the body, which is the other reason we need to settle down and in, otherwise the inquiry is outside the body. And like you said before, the main binding is the body, yeah? Right. So when you say I get anxious, that's the head. When it says I, it's seeing you as a body. This thing gets anxious. Yeah, it does. Because it's conditioned that way in certain situations, probably to get anxious, yeah? Right. But that's a conditioned response, and that's what you see, and that helps you lose faith. But the whole thing goes on. It's just you disentangle from it a little more, yeah, over time. So really, if there was a method or something, it's like Ramana Maharshi would say, it's negation. So when you see it come up, it can be very useful to see why that's happening. Maybe like you feel a certain age or a certain part of the body gets tight or something like that. I mean, that's what I do in embodiment therapy with people. It's settling really subtly into the body so that they can see that line, not to obsess over it, which is great because you said that before. It's not to be like, oh, now I'm that. No. It's to see that it's conditioned. So you don't put all of your faith into the response when the response happens. Yeah. To me, that is an actual solution. Like in AA, they say AA is a solution, yeah? This is a solution, meaning that, yes, you go to work and you get anxious and you get mad and you get happy and you fall in love and then people die and all this happens, but you move through that thing a lot smoother when it's not all just ownership, personal. Because the head has got you in the seat of personal. And the head is self-centered. Everybody's head is, that's the way it operates, yeah? Everything is in reference to you. When people go to AA or they come to me and they're like, I just want to get relief, essentially they're looking for relief from them, what they're taking themselves to be, but they're not that thing, yeah? So understand that thing like you said, not to absorb into it. And in Buddhism, they call that self-cherishing. You take self and you just cherish it like a little pet or something, yeah? But it's attachment, really. And that self is going to flip at some point. You could be happy for a long time, things are going great. Somebody's going to die or some shit's going to happen, yeah? Partner's going to leave, something's going to go on. Life is going to take place. And then this system is going to react to that. The thing is, it seems very confusing when you talk. It seems like all these different parts, but it's all coming through one pipe, being the mental, yeah? It's all coming through one. You have a thought, just random, conditioned thought that comes up, and then your head comes in and puts you in the seat of thinker. Both of those are thoughts, essentially. But if you're outside the body, this seems like very scary, like, fuck, I'm going to implode, yeah? If you're inside and settled in the body, and then you use that inquiry, who is that arising to? Where does that me come from? What is that, yeah? Inside the body, it gets very interesting, because it's like, you don't find anything, and then there's just a space there, and then the head comes back in again, yeah? And you just sit with that inquiry inside the body. Outside the body, very scary. Inside the body, it's a contained investigation. Yeah? So you stop chasing the anxiety and you stop chasing the thoughts and you stick with, who is that coming up to? Where is the me? What is that whole thing? Yeah? To me, that is yoga in Buddhism, really. That is the investigation of this thing, yeah? And then you see that the you is a thought. Yeah? Sensation arises, who? Who is that arising to? Don't go with the sensation, stick with the who-ness of the whole thing inside the body, yeah? And then you sit in that seat and you see there isn't a doer because you chill, there's nothing, and then your head throws something at you, like random, you know? Most of this is just memory. It's just memory going on and projection and perception. Yeah. You're not doing that anxiety. That's conditioned response. That shit. That anxiety is online and then your head puts you there. Yeah? You could, that, if you look at your experience in life, you'll notice that.